Iraq is currently dealing with the economic fallout from the dual shock of collapsing oil prices and the COVID-19 pandemic. Since government spending is almost entirely reliant on oil revenues, Iraq is faced with a really difficult predicament where it simply doesn't have the funds to cover monthly expenditure. The public sector is in drastic need of reform. Part of the problem is the massive growth in public employment. The number of people on the government payroll has grown more than threefold since 2003, and there's been a tenfold increase in spending on public sector salaries. Right now, the big question for Iraqi policymakers is how can you reduce wasteful spending and make the public sector more efficient and productive so that it contributes to the growth of the economy rather than stifling it. So first and foremost, I think it's important not to be overly ambitious. A complete overhaul of dysfunctional institutions is extremely difficult to undertake, and it's far better to begin with small incremental reforms with a full commitment to seeing them through, and then use the momentum from that success to pursue more ambitious projects. It's also vital to consider political economy dynamics when designing reform measures, because of course it's pointless having great innovative ideas that can't be implemented because there are just too many vested interests standing in the way. And that also applies to international assistance efforts. Tens of millions of dollars has been spent by international donors on public sector initiatives over the years, and yet there's been very little to show for these efforts. So international assistance really requires a high degree of local ownership. The second part of the paper offers some ideas about the sorts of reforms that the government could prioritize. So I lay out three proposals that I think are feasible, and in each case I draw on some comparative examples from other countries that have faced similar challenges, including Egypt, Bahrain and Malaysia, to illustrate the positive impact that these initiatives have had. So I focus on how to strengthen Iraq's policymaking infrastructure, and I suggest the need for a data analytics unit at the heart of government that can be utilized to drive evidence-based policymaking. Iraq also needs a dynamic unit that is charged with ensuring that government priorities are being implemented, much like how delivery units function in other parts of the world. And civil service reform is another area that needs to be prioritized. So really embracing performance-based standards for public employees, investing in young, talented professionals who could champion reforms, and working to professionalize the newly formed Federal Public Service Council that can act as a vehicle for civil service reform. So all in all, I think there are lots of things that this new government can do to reform the public sector, but it's all about getting the sequencing right and being very realistic and grounded about what can be achieved under the current circumstances.